In the last video, we went over how Acuna locked up his first MVP award. There's a few stats that I want to go over to understand who can break out for their first MVP in 2024. OPS Plus is a really good comprehensive statistic. It's on-base plus slugging, but normalized for the league average. For example, an OPS Plus of 150 is 50% better than league average. To review the last points in my video on how Acuna's new approach at the plate in 2023 resulted in MVP caliber play, helps us identify what we are looking for in these new guys coming up. Especially looking at the trajectory of how the changes that he made resulted in mitigating the negative value at the plate and maximizing his positive output. First breakout candidate for MVP 2024 is Luis Robert Jr. Now, the White Sox are pretty trash, so he would really have to dominate for this to happen, but all the tools are there. I mean, you might be looking at these and be thinking, dude, these are MVP numbers already. Like, he's hitting for average, power, he's got speed, it's all there, but these were all in separate years, so that's the issue, health and putting it all together in one season. And this graph exhibits that. Clearly he's pacing well in his OPS Plus and barrel rates, both above 2019 All-Star Acuna. But clearly some work to be done to catch the MVP level. The last element that he's lacking, as was the case for Acuna, is plate discipline. The strikeout to walk ratio is just not there yet, double what 2019 Acuna's was, and the run value really takes a hit because of this lack of discipline. His overall run value is specifically hampered by his minimal contribution in the chase zone. He's going after too many of these balls that are unhittable, that should be taken as balls. As discussed before, this is something that Acuna learned in 2023. His outside the zone swing percentage was only 26%, but Robert's is almost double that right now, and he's making contact way less on those. Hopefully, with more experience, he'll be able to really hone his eye so that his discipline will match his high-end ability to pop when his bat hits the ball. And now we have a personal favorite, Julio Rodriguez, known as J-Rod. He's been one of my favorites ever since I saw him in the Home Run Derby, and he, similar to Robert, has top shelf ability in fielding, hitting, and as a base stealer. We just want to see him put it all together for his first MVP season. What's interesting is that on Baseball Reference, his #1 comp is Luis Robert, and you can see it with some of these stats with the hard hits and ability to really run with speed. Unfortunately, they have some of the same drawbacks as well. Here's what I mean on the similarities. It's on pitches like this that are just outside the edge of the strike zone that he just doesn't have the experience yet to know that it's breaking outside of the zone and know that he can't clobber it. And an interesting measuring stick I think here is that both J-Rod and Robert aren't nearly as good on sliders and these off-speed pitches as Acuna was in 2023. Robert actually had a negative run value on sliders. J-Rod had a egregious negative 23 run value on pitches that break into the shadow zone. Last but not least is Arizona Desert speed demon Corbin Carroll. Last year as a rookie, became the first rookie to hit 25 homers and steal 54 bases, which was second to Acuna in the National League. He also hit 10 triples last year, which led the National League. He's just so fun to watch because he flies around the bases like a kid in a candy store, and he even has this little butt wiggle that looks like a pee dance that a kid would have. Firstly, he's just the fastest guy in the MLB. And a stat I think is really cool actually is the 72% extra base taken percentage. Extra base taken tells you how often when his teammate hits a single that he goes from first to third or from second to home. So how much he helps his team score runs efficiently. Looking at how Corbin stacks up against young Acuna, he's outpacing considerably in OPS plus at 134 versus Acuna's 121. And he's a good candidate to reach that MVP benchmark all the way up there, especially given that he's a rookie. Moving on to barrel rate, you can see he's lacking a little bit in this area, especially due to the fact that he hits about 10% less hard hits versus MVP Acuna. And this really lowers the barrel rate, but I'm not putting too much weight on this because, again, he can make up for this with his speed. When we think about what barrels measure, they measure how often you hit that sweet spot on the bat, so we know how often to expect you to be on base and to take a lot of bases with your power. But we know that Carroll can probably turn a single into a triple with just his legs. His ground ball to fly ball ratio is about 2, which I like because that means your hitting for average is sustainable. The strikeout to walk ratio is definitely the best we've seen out of our breakthrough candidates so far. And that leads into great value he adds to run expectancy on a pitch-by-pitch basis. These numbers being backed by 66th percentile in strikeout rate and 71st percentile in whiff rate. Very impressive for a rookie, this level of discipline. So overall, assess it for yourself. Who do you think has the best chance? I think Carroll has the closest to MVP caliber numbers, but J-Rod is probably the most likely to win just because of the aesthetics of his game. I mean, it tends to lean more towards those power hitters, and especially since he also has all the other tools of speed and contact hitting. But he really will have to become more disciplined, so we'll see what happens.